Rajneesh says that you have to realize what seed you are sowing, right? The ego is fine. Ego is going to be in our head. But you don't have to fight with the ego. You just have to sublimate the ego. There is an energy coming out of your inside to do something. And that energy is there. You just have to realize that there is a surge of energy. You have to put it to the wise use. And the only way you can put it to the wise use, you step back and see whether the energy coming from the self is going in the direction of the self to fortify, make the self bigger and better, and finally have the ultimate bliss, or are you going to be wasting on something that is fake, basically, right? If you sow a seed, seeds all look the same. If you sow a seed which is a bitter seed, and you think it's going to be as sweet as a mango seed, say again you were one of those kings and bought that seed for 5,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees, and you saw that seed, and after 5, 10, 15 years, a huge tree comes out and bears the bitter fruits, and then you complain. Whose fault was that? To realize, so what is at the end of the journey is what matters. At starting point, you're going to be influenced by other people into believing that it's going to be as sweet as mango, like that. So what we are sowing, what journey is going to take us through, what places you're going to end up, and what is the final outcome. If you can answer all these questions and then you start journey, it's worth it.
Worth it, yeah.
But we don't ask questions. When we invest, that stock is going to be the blockbuster. But we never realize, we never ask the PE value, we never ask, is this something people are going to need? Or we just ask on internet bubble and tulips, you know the tulips?
Yeah, tulips.
The tulips, the same hall. I mean, people were crazy. The ego was at play.
Correct.
And that's where we are falling short. So ego is extremely important to realize. The bondage of the ego makes many of the people, even the so-called clever people, tired and walk like pashu, walk like animals. People get tied to the egos and they walk around in circles all their lives, wasting their life and ultimately life coming to an end. It goes as a series of stupid acts that you keep on committing. The stupidity and the futility of all these actions, if it is realized, then you are transcending the ego. And that's the job of spirituality, to make us think big. You cannot think big until you become big. How can you think big if you are so small? Right? If you are a droplet and you consider yourself a droplet, how long is it going to take you for you to realize the ocean? A long time. Because it takes billions and billions and billions of droplets to become an ocean. You will never have an idea of an ocean. You will never have the feel of samadhi. You will never have the feel of infinity until you realize that inside you is that infinite ocean. To do that, you have to drop becoming a droplet. You have to dissolve your ego. Ego defines you. Ego gives you shape. Ego gives you a size. Ego gives you a character. Ego gives you personalities. Ego gives you your personal belongings. Ego gives you possessions. Ego gives you identifications with everything around. That's ego. And ego is big when it comes to material life. But when you go inside, there is no ego. Where is ego? Who? Are you female inside? You go into that infinite space. What are you? There is no sex there. You are not a female. You are not a male. You don't own anything. You cannot own anything. You don't have arms. You don't have legs. You don't have body. You have no safe deposit vault. You have nothing to store. You are just one infinite existence. So when you realize that infinite existence ego seems so flimsy. Ego is finite, has to be finite. That's the only way I can define myself against you. So the ego always deals with finite, and it deals with finite. It stays in finite, it dies in finite, and again the cycle goes on again. That's the journey of ego. So there are only two journeys in life. Either you walk towards ego and everything else that goes with it, or you go within and become infinite. There are only two journeys. Which one would you take? So that's the bottom line. That's the question we have to ask. What journey do we want to take? Do you want to realize the stupidity of the ego? Once you realize, then you will not even have to work at dropping the ego. It will drop by itself. Because giving up ego is also another effort. You cannot crush ego, right? So we have to realize, why are we wasting time trying to drop the ego? Oh, you have to be nice. You have to speak the truth. Even though inside you want to speak nothing but untruth. You want to lie and cheat and all that, yet outside you're required to be civilized. The society says it's illegal to do. We are wasting our time going after the efforts. You drop all the efforts, and then lying and stealing and all this falls. Because what are you trying to achieve by lying? To receive a fame, a name? But those are fake things anyway.
Materials.
It's all material. You're like playing in a kiddie pool. You have not seen the ocean. See the ocean. Just realize the ocean, and things will just happen by itself. Rajneesh had a devotee. He came to him. He says, okay, finally, I agree. I'm going to go with you. Right? As if he's doing a favor to Rajneesh. So he says, I'm going to do dhyan and meditation. But my condition is, I cannot give up the alcohol. So Rajneesh says, that's fine. Not a problem. I never told you to give up anything. I'm just telling you to do the dhyan. So he went on. 3 months, 6 months later, the guy comes and says, you cheated me. He says, what do you mean? I can't drink anymore.
That's true.
I don't feel like drinking anymore. What did you do to me? Rajni says, I didn't do anything. You did it to yourself. You realized that drinking does not take you anywhere, because there is a big sharab that's going on inside. You know how they say? Pehle sharab used to be the nasha.
Yeah.
Now life has become the nasha. The life itself has become intoxication. That intoxication of being in that state of existence is so much beautiful that short bursts of intoxication with alcohol does not do anything. It's like a flicker versus the brightest, millions of sun bright, smiling on the inside. When you have that, what do you care about all these things? That's what it is. So it's like if you have a line, you want to make it smaller, you want to break it off, it's not going to work. Just draw a big line in front of it. When that big line, that small dot, it will look like. So that's what we have to do. We have to raise the divinity within us. We have to reach to the state of spiritual awareness. That awareness is so beautiful, it's so big, it's so bright, it's so pious. And believe me, people have been there. It's not a fake thing, it's a real thing. And for that you don't have to do nothing. You have to just speak within. So there is only one freedom. The true freedom exists only inside. The freedom from the forms and the names. The names which are given to you is a fake entity that's given to you by the society. Did you come in the world with a name written in your chest that I am Lakshman? No.
Neither you go with it.
Neither you go with it. Everything gets burnt. Even if you get tattooed. Even if you have a tattoo, says Lakshman, everything gets to burn. To dust and ashes to ashes. So the names were given to you, social security number was given to you, clothes were given to you. What did you care? Did you care about whether you have dress on or not? No, but the society couldn't stand. So they gave you the names and the forms and everything. What do you care, right? Where you pee or where you... you don't care. is doing right now. You say, oh, come on, Nikhil, you shouldn't do that. He feels like doing it. So you couldn't care.
Yeah.
All these things were created by the society. So that was a trick to get you sucked into that. Once you have the name, you have to defend it.
Yep.
Who said that? They made you believe that. Now you are Lakshman, now you are Deepak, now you are this, now you are that. You have to defend. You have to defend your name. People die for their own name.
Yeah.
Now you are American, you are Indian, you have to fight. People die. What do you care? Do the birds care what land they're flying in, whether they're Russian or America? They cross the border right and left, and down
No
there
passport,
there
no
are people
passport.
fighting.
No passport
Pakistanis and
required.
Indians are fighting, killing each other, sacrificing their personal lives, creating widows, creating orphans out of these stupid wars. What do the birds care? The wind cares? Does the wind care whether it's American wind or Russian wind?
No.
Nobody cares. Nature doesn't care. So you can reach to that state. You dissolve your identity. Yet for practical purpose you might need it, but those practical purposes have no value. You just have to
if you
realize
go to that state,
you will reach that
Yeah.
state. Believe me, everybody has capacity to
Oh,
reach that state.
absolutely.
All right? And that's the trick created by the society. And how about your body? The form that is given to you is another trick played by the nature. So, okay, you remove everything. And then I ask you, are you a male or female? You can say, yes, I'm a male or a female, whatever, right? But that's the identification with your body. So the job of the spirituality is to put you into the zone where even the sex dissolves. And then you are free. First you have the freedom from the name and fame and acquisitions and material wealth and all these things. And then you have a freedom from your forms. So when you drop the world of names and forms, you are free as a wind. You are free as a bird. You fly into the zone of infinity. You walk around with that silence. You are that silence. You are that unlimited existence no one can touch. There is no name. There is nothing. And there is nothing but freedom. There is nothing but bliss. There is nothing but enjoyment in that field. And that's field we want to achieve. That's the ultimate freedom. So basically, ego strangles you. It strangles your throat. It puts you into confinement of the names and the forms. And yes, you should live in the society. You have to follow the rules of the society. You have to drive on the right side of the road. You don't insult. You don't steal. All these things. But when you are at the infinite zones, your rules and regulations, your own rules and regulations will be so wide and inclusive of everybody. You won't be doing those things anyway.
you don't need to do.
You don't need to.
Don't feel
your
like
own
doing
rules and regulations are much more than the society's rules and regulations. You don't feel like doing it. Period. At that state, life is so beautiful. You would not want to drive on the left side. You would not want to drive at 85, 90, 100 miles an hour because you might end up injuring someone. So that you don't want to do it, you will not do it. Not that you are told not to not to break the speed limit. You will not be going above that. Anyway, so I'm just giving an example. But there are so many things you will not be doing stupid things anyway. So, what do we do with the ego? And just saying that you want to drop the identity is not going to cut it, like we said. The droplet cannot stay as a droplet and become an ocean. It has to realize its infinite state of existence. Because as a droplet, yes, it is a droplet. No question about it. You can see it, you can touch it, you can measure it and all that. But we have to come out of that web that is in our mind. And mind is beautiful. Mind is the only way, actually, you can go. You cannot hate mind. You just have to make it more purified. And you have to turn it inside. The same sense organs that you've been dealing with to enjoy, so-called enjoy, the world, you have to, the eyes which were seeing all these beautiful things outside, the objects of enjoyment, you were touching the objects of sensations of touch, smell, nose, all these things. You have to turn them inside and roll them inside, and the same eye, even with the closed eye, is going to turn inside, is going to look at the Paramatma. So sense organs, along with that complex web of the mind you can fold inside on for itself and realize that there is something beyond the mind. So we have to go within, and the same organs will be using to go within, and that's going to teach you how to go into further into the depths of the infinite bliss. Because the things that ego makes us do, it does not take us anywhere. Why do we have big mansions? Do you think people don't have enough room in a small house to live? The big mansions are because of the ego. Genghis Khans were created. Alexanders were created for the ego, just for the simple reason, ego. Ego made them took them on those journeys to acquire and acquire and acquire, finally reaching nowhere. There was a story of that Alice in the Wonderland, all these kid stories. Yeah. The Alice disappears into the Wonderland and keeps running and running and running and does not reach anywhere. And there is a fairy sitting there, and finally Alice gets tired by the end of the day, and she gets and she complains to the fairy. He says, in this Wonderland it's so wonderful, but I'm not reaching anywhere. I'm just running and running and running. I'm not reaching to any goal or so the fairy says the same thing. It's the same story. Everywhere in this so-called Wonderland, we keep running and running, but it does not take us anywhere. It's like a mirage in the desert. We think that there is a water. We keep running and running, but we never reach to the water. There is no water. It's our foolishness to expect something solid to come out of this material world. And that's again the illusion created by the ego. We have to come out of that illusion. It's almost like we are in a hypnotic state. We are hypnotized by the nature, whatever may be the case, and made worse by the society of capitalism, commercialism. All these webs keep on adding into our clarity that you used to have. That clarity is gone. Rajneesh gives a beautiful example, because Rajneesh used to do a lot of hypnotism.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was heavily into hypnotism too, because that's how he could know where the person stands.
Oh, okay.
So he used to hypnotize people.
In India, mein pehle news
there are a lot of things, yeah.
Yeah.
So under the hypnotism, what happens is that the person is hypnotized and he becomes oblivious to the whole world, except the hypnotizer. He listens to only the the person who is hypnotizing them, right? So one time he hypnotized one person, and when he was coming out, he gave a post-hypnotic suggestion that tomorrow you will come to my bedroom at 9 o'clock and you will hug the pillow. Stupid thing to do, but Rajneesh wanted to conduct an experiment. Next day, Rajneesh was sitting outside on the veranda, balcony. The guy came 8:30, 8:45. So Rajneesh says, why are you here? Well, I was just passing by. He says, you don't even live around here. You drove 10 miles to come here. How could you just say that passing by? The guy didn't have any answer. That hypnotic suggestion was working. So Rajneesh says, I'm surprised that you came. But anyway, have a seat. Rajneesh didn't want to tell him anything. The guy was acting from that post-hypnotic suggestion. So about 5 minutes before 9, the guy says, it's hot in here, right? He's trying to justify his actions. We always do that. A lot of times we don't know why we're doing, but we want to justify. Why are we running after money? Oh, for the kids. Why? Kids don't have their own arms and legs and brains? We justify everything. But inside, our urge to acquire, we
want to look big for our kids.
We don't want to accept that it is our desire to acquire. We don't want to face the truth. Right? So he said, Isn't it hot in here? Let's go inside and refresh ourselves. Rajni says, this is winter. We are sitting outside. I am in a jacket. And you think it's hot? He says, yeah, somehow. So Rajni says, okay, let's go inside. And 2 minutes before that, he says, he takes us, they were sitting in the living room. The guy gets up, runs into the bedroom, hugs the pillow. So Rajni says, why did you do that? So the guy had no answers now. He started crying. He says, I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing this. But I just had an urge. So a lot of our actions are deep rooted and coming from way beyond. And we have to explore that. We have to understand all these things.